ओम त्यागेश्वरम रामकृष्णम शारदाम मातृरूपिणीम विवेकानंदमाचार्यम नत्वा भक्ष्यामि शुद्धये. In this Narada Bhakti Sutra, in our last class, we concluded a list of disciplines that Narada prescribes for the devotees who want to cross over Maya or those who want to realize God. He gave a list which included psychological mental disciplines and also physical disciplines. Most of these were negative, so one who gives up attachment, gives up this lokabandha or this desire for pleasures of the other world, swarga sukha and all that. One who gives up mamatva, paratva, this is mine, this is not mine, that sense, who gives up. Like that, a list who gives up yoga kshema, all efforts at procuring and protecting karma phala, all that one who gives up, such a person crosses over this maya. And also certain physical exercises, so to say, practices. Mahanubhavam sevate, yo mahanubhavam sevate, one who undertakes service of holy ones or service of man as God. So whatever way, takes recourse to service or takes recourse to vivikta sthana, one who nirjanavasa, karmani tejati, who controls, so say, one's activities to what is minimum required. Like that, there were physical exercises also, mental exercises also. And the result of all that was satarati slokas tarati. Such a person crosses over and helps others to cross over this maya. Most of these, as I said, were negative. So we have to add avyavritta bhajana and bhagavad guna shravana kirtana. All that we have to add to this. So on one side we have to give up what is counterproductive and we have to undertake what is helpful. So that what is helpful is avyavritta bhajana, that is continuous worship of God in various forms. So that was the that earlier subject was that. And the result of all those, the result of all these spiritual practices, which started with Vishaya Tyaga, Sanga Tyaga and all that, is what the subject of the next few sutras, that is prema, love of God. So he starts with Anirvachaniyam Prema Swarupam Mukha Swadanavat Prakashyate Kvapi Patre. These three sutras we discussed in our earlier class. This prema, which is the result of all these disciplines mentioned earlier, he says it is Anirvachaniya, its Swarupa, Prema Swarupa is Anirvachaniya, inexplicable. Like the dumb person experiencing experience of a dumb person, we can say. Like the experience of a dumb person. Dumb person will experience but won't be able to express. So like the experience of dumb persons, this love of God, which is the result of all these spiritual disciplines, is indescribable. That's what was told. You see, all love is indescribable. If you look at it, or even human love is indescribable. We cannot describe what mother feels for the child, mother's love for the child, or any other love for that matter. It's indescribable. You cannot describe it. It is not black, white, or anything. So it is indescribable, but so it is like mukha swadana. It is also like dumb person's experience. But in the world, there are many people who experience it. So all the mothers feel that love for God. If a mother feels love for the child, others who are not mothers, like fathers, may not be able to understand what that love is. But other mothers will understand what that love is. So also the love between two friends, a third friend will understand what that love is. So in human love, though it is also anirvachaniya, it is inexplicable, still many people experience it and corroborate it. But when it comes to divine love, we hardly find anyone who has experienced it and who can corroborate it. So we get a doubt whether divine love does exist. because it is anirvachaniya, it cannot be explained, and there are not many who have experienced it, or hardly there is anyone who has experienced it. So whether it really exists or not, that doubt comes. And to offset that or to answer that, he says prakashyate kvapi patra. He asserts that yes, it is true, it does exist, and it does manifest itself in some worthy recipients, in the hearts of some worthy recipients. This love for God manifests itself, prakashyate. We have to understand this love is not parabhakti. This love that is talked of in these few sutras is not parabhakti. Because parabhakti earlier itself it has been described. Satvasmin parama prema rupa amrita swarupa and all that. So parabhakti is already described. This is not parabhakti. Second reason, the word parama is not used. It is just prema. Anirvachaniyam prema swarupa. So this is not the final word in the bhakti according to the Bhakti Shastra. Final word of spiritual life. That is parabhakti. This is one step below that, penultimate stage. This prema that we have to understand. This prema is the penultimate stage, not the parabhakti. Secondly, very nicely told, it manifests itself. It cannot be practiced like all love. This love also cannot be practiced. This love of God, we cannot practice it. It has to just manifest itself. It has to dawn, so to say. But how would it dawn? The results of all those disciplines. This is a very precious achievement in human life. If one can make oneself competent for this love to manifest in his or her heart. Attainment of this love is a very precious attainment. And this, it comes only as a result of very hard disciplines. So now it is, so to say, the distilled and refined and purified form of all our psychic energies together. See, the various emotional drives that we have, which are scattered in the world in the form of attraction, repulsion, hatred, fear, whatever you call it, jealousy, all these emotional drives, this emotional energy being wasted, being scattered in its crude form, all this, when it is checked and with avyavratta bhajana, it is directed towards God, purified, refined, then this very energy which is now going out will transmute itself, so to say, in the divine love, in this prema, which is love for God. So that is why it is a precious achievement, this love of God. It is not easy to get. It is not the ultimate stage, that is also accepted, but this is a penultimate stage, and it comes as a result of these hard spiritual disciplines. And it is the refined and distilled form of our psychic energies, which are now frittered in the external world, which are, so to say, scattered in the external world. Their refined, purified form is this love of God. Narada is not satisfied just by saying that it is anirvachaniya. He has already told it. Still, he wants to make an attempt at giving some idea to us about what is this prema, the penultimate stage in this, according to this Bhakti Shastra. So he says, Gunarahitam, Kamanarahitam, Pratikshana Vardhamanam, Avichinnam, Sukshmatram, Anubhavarupam. तत्प्राप्य तदेव आलोकयति तदेव शृणोति तदेव भाषयति तदेव चिंतयति. Two sutras he gives. The first one tries to give some explanation, some characteristics. Though it is anirvachaniya, still he wants to make an attempt. So some characteristics of this love, prema, are given. And the second is its effect on the character of a person. Two sutras. It says gunarahitam, it is devoid of all gunas. Kamanarahitam, devoid of all desires. Pratikshana vardhamanam, it is ever increasing. It is increasing every second. Avichinam is unbroken. There is no break in it. Sukshmataram is, it is very subtle. And anubhava rupam, of the form of an experience. Positive entity. So these are the few characteristics of this prema. And one who has attained it, tat prapyo tadeva alokayati. That person sees only God. That actually means that prema or God. We can say either. Tat prapyo, that person sees only God, hears only about God, talks only about God, thinks only about God. That is the effect of this prema on the character of a person who is fortunate to get it, or in whose heart it has manifested itself. So the characteristics are gunarahitam, so it is devoid of all gunas. This word guna itself, in 2-3 definitions. One is simple, that it is free from all qualities. Qualities by which we define the objects of this world. These do not apply to this love. These qualities do not apply to any emotions at all. It is neither hard nor soft, nor sweet nor sour. So a simple explanation is that it is gunarahita. The other explanation is it is free from the effect of 3 gunas, sattva, rajas and tamas. This love of God, it is free from the effect of 3 gunas. To understand this definition and various characteristics, we'll have to compare it to the worldly love that we are aware of, that we know of, that we see. Only in comparison with the worldly love, and in some case in comparison with the love that we have for God now. Presently we have some love for God. We can compare this definition to that love also. So the love that we see in the world and the love that we have for God, this prema can be compared and understood to be different, how it is different from these two. And we can get a glimpse of what this prema is. See, this worldly love, it's always under the influence of 3 gunas. In the last class we discussed this briefly, these 3 gunas, sattva, rajas and tamas. Sattvam, सत्वम सुखे संजयति रजः कर्मणि भारत ज्ञानम आवृत्य तु तमः प्रमादे संजयत्युतोऽसौ. Sattva will join or engage in seeking pleasures, transitory pleasures. So this love of God, it doesn't make us seek transitory pleasures, whereas the worldly love is always after transitory pleasures. So that is the effect of sattva guna. Worldly love invariably makes us active. It pulls us, so to say, in various actions. Whereas this divine love, it won't impel us to any activity. And lastly, worldly love invariably goads us to inadvertence, pramada. Whereas this divine love, it never ever leads us to pramada or inadvertence. So that's why it is gunarahita. It is free from the effects of all the 3 gunas. The third definition of gunarahita is it is independent of the gunas of the beloved. The worldly love, it invariably depends on the qualities of the beloved. In fact, those qualities are the one which make one person fall in love of the other, whatever be the equation between the two. But it is always, it has a reason. The worldly love always has a reason. Being some qualities in the beloved. Whereas in this prema, when it dawns, it doesn't look at the qualities of the beloved who is nothing but the Lord. Just the fact that He is our own self, we love ourselves. Just as we love ourselves, we don't think of our qualities, we just love ourselves. So, also, when this love dawns, it is not dependent on the qualities of the Lord, just that He is ourself, He is God. That is enough. It is dominated, so to say, by the Swarupa and not by the Gunas. So it is Guna Rahita. That attraction is not to certain qualities, but towards the Swarupa of the Lord. So that's why it is called Guna Rahita. That is the first characteristic of this prema. It is Guna Rahita. The second is Kamana Rahita. It is free from all desires. And when we say desires, we also have to understand it is free from all hatred, repulsions, and fears, and everything. Human love is full of all these. I mean, actually, human love leads to many problems. When you love someone, you hate someone. Someone comes in the way between me and the object of my love, I get angry. If I can't do anything about it, I hate, I repulse. It is fraught with all the emotions, kamana, krodha, moha, dvesha, everything. This divine love is completely free from all these emotions. As we said, it is the result of purification of all the emotions. So, obviously, it is free from all the emotions, all the worldly emotions, so to say. So, it is kamana rahita. Then it says pratikshana vardhamanam. It's another stark distinction between worldly love and divine love. See, worldly love, generally we find there is a rise, and then there is a point of satiation, and then it just drops, comes down. The intensity of the love. It rises, reaches a point of satiation, and then it comes down. Even in between mother and child, when the child is very young, mother's love is so intense. As the child grows, slowly we don't find that much of love. It's not that mother's love reduces so, but expression definitely reduces. But in this divine love, there is no question of satiation. There is no question of having enough of it. As it says, pratikshana vardhamanam, it increases every moment. More love devotee gets, more love devotee experiences, feels, more he or she wants. It is pratikshana vardhamanam. This is different from what we see in the world. And it is avichinna, unbroken. Worldly love, of course, is broken. It depends and it breaks. Even our love for God, you see, we have love for God presently. Sometimes we feel great love for God, but then again at times we don't feel it at all. We feel so dry. So there is this vicheda, there is this gap between our love, the love that we have for God at present. In this love there are gaps. Vicheda is there, but when this prema dawns, it is avichinna. There is no respite from it, so to say. I mean, that's only a figurative way of saying it's continuous, it's avichinna. It is sukshmatram, it is subtle. We already discussed that prema is anirvachaniya. Even worldly prema is anirvachaniya. And as such, it's also sukshma. Definitely it is subtle. All emotions are subtle. But these emotions that we experience now are for gross objects. We can only imagine what would be the nature of emotion when it is directed towards God, who is subtlest of all objects, or who is our own self and subtlest. So how subtle that love would be. So that's why it's called sukshmatram. And then it says anubhava rupam. It is of the nature of experience. So this is the definition of this prema that Narada has given, because he wants us to know or experience or at least imagine, or get some idea of what this love is. That's why he has given. And the effect of this love on the character of the person is what is stated in the next sutra. So he says, Tat prapya tadeva avaloketi, tadeva shrunoti, tadeva bhasheti, tadeva chinteti. He will be such a person, knows, so to say, nothing but God. In one sentence, such a person knows nothing but God, we can say. Swamiji in one place says, if something scares you, some situation, whatever, and he says, tear the mask off. Tear the mask off, and you will find the mother behind that frightful situation or frightful person, frightful thing. Whatever, tear the mask off, and you will find the mother. This bhakta has tore the mask off, so to say, the entire world. So what attracts us today, what repels us today, what threatens us today, what makes us jealous, he or she has tore the mask off and sees the face of Mother, face of Lord behind everything. Today we see multiplicity. The bhakta sees the unity underlying this multiplicity, so to say. The bhakta has trained, so to say, his or her mind is trained to focus on the signals in the midst of the noise, so to say. We hear only the noise, but these bhaktas, they hear the signals. The underlying signal in this noise of the world, that is the Lord, that is God. Bhaktas' eyes, ears have become so fine, purified, that he or she, wherever he or she sees, he or she will see only God and not the world. He or she will hear only God and not the world. It's a very lofty stage to move in God, so to say. To move in God, so to say. It's a very lofty stage. If he or she talks, it will be only about God. The thinking will be only about God. That is the stage of this bhakta. It's a stage where that person's whole character, whole being, so to say, is painted, colored with God. All the objects and persons, animate and inanimate, everything will be seen as God. All the actions will be inspired by devotion, in a spirit of dedication, service of God. And all the happenings will be received as blessings of God. This is the state of mind, so to say, to put it in a nutshell. He or she will see that every thing and being are expressions of God. All actions are inspired by the love and devotion of God, dedication, service of God. And all happenings are the will of God, the prasada of God. So there is no scope for any other emotion than this prema. As I said, this is a very lofty state, this prema. And this is what this Narada tells in these 5 sutras, starting with Anirvachaniyam Prema Swarupam, and ending with giving the characteristics of a bhakta who has achieved this prema. As I said, this is the penultimate stage, this is not the last stage. A very lofty stage. Alright. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.